Town of South Hadley held a vaccine clinic this afternoon. That is just one of the stops we make as Western Mass News takes you town by town. Residents who attended the clinic were able to roll up their sleeves for two at the Beers and Story parking lot on Newton Street. The shots that were available include the flu, Pfizer COVID-19, RSV, and the shingles vaccine.
Now Town by Town takes us to Springfield, where Mayor Dominic Sarno joined forces with fellow local officials today for an announcement of the expansion of the Greening the Gateway Cities program. Into the East Springfield neighborhood, Mayor Sarno also announced a $500,000 supplemental budget for citywide forestry operations. In addition, the city's forestry division previously removed 150 stumps in East Springfield to make way for the new trees. Since Mayor Sarno began the stump grinding program, over 1,500 stumps have been removed citywide.
When we come back, Jenna has one last look at our first alert forecast.